before we jump into the good stuff, tell me a little about yourself. What's your role at ACI?
Well, in a nutshell, I'm responsible for culture and diversity, equity, and inclusion. At a company, we have about 1,200 people spread across the state, and also now we have about 50 people in North Carolina.
Nice.
Mhm.
So we did some work with you guys last year. MSBCoach did some work with Atlantic Constructors. Curious if you could just tell me a little bit about, as you reflect on the work that we did, the workshops, the individual coaching, what all that we did with you all.
Well, sure. The situation was this. The CEO came to me along with the director of new construction and said that, we were at a place where we had to recognize that perhaps um, those persons that we had in leadership roles were not properly prepared to do so. They may have been good at their craft, but with the complexities of construction today and the complexities of people in general, working with people in general, they needed some help and they wanted my thoughts on that. And so I recalled when I needed work on myself, as well as others in the past, I reached out to MSBCoach. I've been familiar with the company now since my days at UVA, the 20 years now almost. So
Wow.
I
Wow.
reached out and thought about what we would need to be able to help our leaders understand that command and control mentality that is so very natural, for them to continue in construction needed to change. Um, and that's a big thing to bite off because I'm a guy that sits behind a desk most of the day, and these are people who rarely sit in a day. And so to be able to take on that challenge, I had to lean into discomfort, and really put my trust in MSBCoach that they could see my vision, you know, and be able to help us move our leadership to a place that was going to give us a competitive advantage. Because in construction, I believe that your true competitive advantage lies in your ability to lead people successfully.
Nice. An observation that I am a big fan of. And you just set me up for the next question, really. What's the impact? I'm curious about the impact on the business from that work that you did with MSB.
Well, I wish I had the dollars and cents or the percentages or the numbers. I don't know, but the overall attitude these days of the leaders that we had in this process is very different. There were just under 40 of them, and it was a select group. Um, some folks work inside more than outside, but most of them work outside. And I will tell you that just in the interactions that I have had with them since, okay, they really reflect the fact that something that we did with them stuck. And I think it was the course of action that we took that did so. Just like when I had my issue, um, I was given the emergenetics profile so that I could better understand myself and as a consequence, how it is that I choose to think and behave. That helped me to be able to understand the same about others. In fact, I understood it so well that some years later I became certified in emergenetics, and I brought emergenetics to Atlantic when I came 9 years ago. And so we started our multi-month. I think we had like 8 or 9. I don't even remember how many, but 8 or 9 sessions altogether over a course of about 6 months, which is unprecedented for people who work in the field, that they had this many 3 and 4 hour courses. Okay, that right there was showing a commitment, on the part of our executives. And I would say that emergenetics is what got it started, and it became our common language as we went through all of the other modules included in our coursework. So, and today they still are speaking emergenetically. And even as recently as yesterday, I had one of the trade managers, which is the head guy over top of, say, like sheet metal or plumbing or electric. He, he came and said, cool, when are we gonna have some emergenetics, for my guys? I need my guys. And they use the word emergenetics to describe the whole process. I mean, it's not just the emergenetics, but it was everything we went through, the emotional intelligence, trust, all of that stuff that we went through. They just need one word, and that they just call it emergenetics. But the
Yeah.
point is, they know that it was impactful to them, and they are leaders of leaders, and they're looking at their leaders can now do something. So we're in the process now trying to figure out what does that look like,
Yeah, no, that's great. And just a quick distinction. You said the guys that work outside. We're talking about field leaders. We're talking about hands-on leaders, not
Yeah, these
just
dudes wear boots, man. They wear boots. They wear boots. You don't really want them walking up in your house till they take the boots off because they're dirty. Okay. These guys don't play, man. You know,
right.
I admire them. And I mean, you was around, dude, I almost had tears in my eyes a couple of times because to get them, to get them to sit there like that and actually be engaged, man, it just was. I just,
Yeah.
it was very gratifying. Now, I will admit, you do know we had one little toy that we had that helped with that engagement, and that was my box. And I had a really nice box made so they could stick their phones in it when they came in the room, and that helped a lot, man. Yeah.
I
So,
remember that box. I'm a big fan of that box personally.
but what we learned is that they enjoy learning. I
Yeah.
think what we also saw is that they like it better when they're standing up. We had a lot of stuff where they could stand up and move around because they don't sit down all day, And so one of the things about MSBCoach is I think that everyone works to have the experience be inclusive. And so I would always share with the instructors that, you please must remember that these folks that you're talking to, you know, are people who are outside all day, okay? And they're in the construction business. So don't speak examples to them about offices and computers and this and that and the other, because you're going to run them off the other way. Because they don't really feel they think sometimes I think they think people in the office are enemy, So and they were very good about trying their best whenever possible to address our audience the way that they wanted to be addressed, and that was very
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
Great. Appreciate that. And that clarification. I guess you've touched on the impact again, the fact that, hey, following year, we're still seeing some of the behaviors, we're still hearing the language used. I guess I'm curious, how has your team, or maybe how's the executive team, seen some of these learning concepts more integrated?
Well, I believe that now they are more trusting of the things that I put forward. Um, they're very wise people, and so I have to be able to show how whatever we involve ourselves in can become impactful. Now, to be very honest, you know, we're not where we want to be yet, but what we do have is a target, and that is, we say that ACI builds not by counting people, but by making people count. And so we always use that as our guide, making people count. It may not seem as though spending X amount of dollars to do something that doesn't have to do with building a building is prudent, but sometimes, the price you pay is nothing compared to the cost that you defray. And so, I always use the term cost of nonconformance. Can you really afford the cost of nonconformance? We're building a new building next door, and it's costing us millions of dollars. But if I am met with an objection for spending money, say on something that may not have been first on someone else's mind who has to make that decision, I said, well, what good is that building going to be if there's nobody there to work it? Yeah, so that's kind of, you have to. I guess I'm that guy that, they say, if I don't hear no every day and hell no once a week, I'm not doing my job. So that's sort of the role I play here. We live in a world where we try to see difference differently, and so that I think, along with the making people count, we understand that we have to take our leaders and ultimately everyone to a different place, and it's our job to lift them up. We just got to find, a way to feel comfortable with that and to understand that, it's a journey and not something that's going to happen overnight. Yeah. So,
Yeah. I'm amen on the journey. I hear you. It is
yeah.
a journey. I guess last question. I'm curious. What would you say to someone considering working with MSB Coach?
Well, I would say, buckle up because they will take you higher. You know, you may not understand in the beginning, but you should know that investing with MSB Coach has the opportunity to produce an incredible return. And you should start with your top, and have your top fully engaged. I think that one of the reasons why my job was as smooth as it was not only because I was working with MSB Coach, but it was because I had our highest executives involved as well. And they became really involved with MSB Coach. Everybody that was involved knew them, and so I didn't have to do a whole lot of talking because they saw it for themselves. And that's usually, believe it or not, I believe that's a bigger barrier than most people want to realize, especially in companies that aren't these super huge companies. This ain't no small company, but you can see the owners, so I think that makes a difference. So
Yeah.
we appreciate
Bill,
it. Yeah.
yeah, no, I speaking of appreciate, I appreciate your time today. It was good to see you again. And thanks for sharing a few thoughts with me.
My pleasure, man. So we say ciao.
Ciao.